guys, welcome back to Crater Mania. I'm your host, Crater. Today we got a very special show, as this week is Super Bowl. Actually, Super Bowl's happening here in just a couple of hours. So for all you football fans, this week is for you guys. All the movies I checked out this week are different football movies, and a lot of these were favorites for me growing up. So some of them a little bit new to me. Some of the ones I watched this week. I haven't been a regular football fan since I was a kid. I don't follow it regularly anymore. But the tradition we have here at my house is no matter what, like even if we don't follow football regularly, we always watch the Super Bowl every year. We have a little Super Bowl party. Uh, so even though we don't really know anything about the teams or the players, I think we just kind of pick a team and just hope that that they win. But it's a fun time, and you got the really funny Super Bowl commercials that happen and stuff. Um, and we always love that kind of stuff too. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, this week is for all the football movie fans and just movie fans in general. It's for you guys too, because like even though like I said I'm not a big football fan anymore, I still love football movies, and I don't know what it is about them. Like I still love them. And I tend to watch, from time to time regularly. Um, Especially like the underdog stories. And I think that's really what is one of the biggest appeals with football movies is the underdog story of like because it's always good to to support like the popular teams or the super successful teams in sports. Um, but I feel like if really support a an underdog team, if they win in the end, then it feels a lot more special. Um, so I see we got a few people already in chat here. My buddy Foz Rotten, what up, brother? And thanks that it is a cool headset. Actually this is my son's headset. It's a Lenovo. It's a really good headset. I love it. I'm gonna have to check my mic. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay? Just let me know in the chat. Let's see. Go ahead and check my mic. Settings. Sorry about this, guys. Um, it's a bit of an echo. Let me see if I can. It's got echo cancellation. I don't know. Let me go out of this real quick, guys, and I will be right back. I'm so sorry. All right, I'm back, guys. Can you hear me any better now? Just let me know before I get started here. Yes, okay. So we're good. All right. So we're good to go. Sorry about that, guys. As you know, some things happen when we're doing live streams, and nothing can always be perfect. But anyway, back to the show. Like I said, this is a show all about football movies. that that I've loved and some that I haven't seen. And like I said, I'm not a big football fan anymore, but we always do the Super Bowl party every year here at the house. So I guess let's just go ahead and get into this. Like, this is Super Bowl 59 this year. And it's going to be between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And, so they kind of had a rivalry going for the past few years. Um, so I thought, in honor of that being the Super Bowl, let me go ahead and just watch some football movies this week to talk about for the show. Um, Foz, would I consider The Last Boy Scout? Yeah, I think I would. I mean, it has football. It's not really like a full on football movie, but I would definitely consider it, a football movie. Um, but I think Greg is in here. Greg, thank you for being here again. My wife Candace is in here. Thank you guys for stopping by, checking out the show today. It's a little bit. I'm doing a little bit early today, like I said, because of the Super Bowl. It starts at 6:30. So want to be ready for that in time and everything. Um, but yeah, like I said, if you guys are ready to talk about some movies, and I'm ready. So just go ahead and grab your snacks, you settle in. Let's prepare for a show of touchdowns and tackles and some tear jerkers. So let's go ahead and let the games begin. So I'll start off this week with the original, the longest yard, from 1974 with Burt Reynolds. Um, and this was a movie that I had never seen before. Um, and I thought this movie was absolutely awesome. Like I said, I'd always seen the remake with Adam Sandler, um, but I had never seen the original. So, like I said, in preparation for the Super Bowl, I thought I'd start this week with an interesting choice. And since like I said, I've never seen the movie before, but I'd seen the 2005 remake. Um, like I said, this movie is absolutely great, and it's probably one of the best football movies that I've ever watched. Um, it definitely got me in the mood for a week of football movies. So I'm glad I started with this one. It highlights several different themes throughout the movie, and like teamwork and strategy, and being the underdog. And that's one of the big things about these football movies. Like I was saying, like the underdog stories are ones that feel more special to people. And these things are all like relevant to the Super Bowl and just football in general. Um, Now, this, even though I had never seen this before, I found this movie to be extremely entertaining, and it holds up remarkably well for a film from over 50 years ago. Um, even decades later, Burt Reynolds' charisma just kind of leaps off the screen at you. Um, and he absolutely just owns the role of Paul Wrecking Crew in this, who's a former like NFL quarterback who's serving time in prison, because he got in some trouble with the law and all that, and he just kind of thought he was above the law, and just thought the rules didn't apply to him. Um, so before I get into the movie, I just name a few other people who's in this movie that kind of stood out to me besides Burt Reynolds. Um, Eddie Albert, who plays the warden, Hazen, in this. He's just this corrupt and sadistic son of a bitch, warden of the prison, and he tries to frame Burt Reynolds and trying to get him to like um, put together this team. Well, actually, he tries to frame him by like getting him to become like the coach of the guards team, but he just refuses that. But then they come up with this deal to where like, they're going to have a like a practice game against the inmates. So Crew puts that team together for him, and James Hampton, who's also, and I've met James Hampton before. He's a super nice guy. I met him at Scarefest years ago for when he was in
because for Teen Wolf, but and I had never seen this movie at that time, and so I didn't even know he was in it. But he plays caretaker in this, um, who is like this inmate who ends up becoming Paul Cruz's friend, and he can just kind of get whatever for the other inmates in there. So he just that's why they call him caretaker because he takes care of everybody else there. Ed Lauder plays the Captain Canower, who is the captain of the guards team, and he can be brutal at times too. He was beating the Burt Reynolds with the nightstick and all that. And he ends up like his character is very interesting because he kind of ends up having he has a little bit of redemption at the end of the movie. Um, Richard Keel, who is one of my favorite parts of this movie, he plays Samson, who is this like massive and intimidating inmate who's you know is for the inmates team on Cruz team, and he has some really funny lines in the movie, and I really liked seeing him in this, which is funny because the remake of this movie with Adam Sandler, Richard Keel has ties to Adam Sandler because he was the guy that was in um, Happy Gilmore who wore the shirt that said "Guns don't kill people, I kill people" or something like that. And then there's like a scene where Shooter McGavin has to hit the golf ball off of his foot. So I thought that was kind of pretty cool tie-in. Um, and then I have to mention Bernadette Peters, even though she has a small role in the movie where she plays the warden's secretary, Miss Toot. Um, it's I have to mention it because, like, when I was a kid growing up, I remember at an early age I watched The Jerk with Steve Martin, and that was my first time I seen Bernadette Peters, and I always thought she was so beautiful, and I was in love with her as a kid. So I really like her, character in this, even though it's a really small character. And there's like a scene where they're trying to get this like film reel of the guards practice so the inmates can watch it, and she's going to get it for him, but in return Burt Reynolds has to have sex with her character, and they have like a 15-minute window, so it goes by really quick for them. um, but I tell you what struck me the most was how well this movie blended humor and action. And it's definitely a comedy, it's it's got plenty of like really funny moments in the movie, particularly like in the training montages, um, and the interactions between the inmates are really funny. But underneath all like the humor and stuff, there's a real sense of like danger because of the prison setting, and the prison setting itself really feels authentic. Um, I think parts of like the exteriors of the film, I think were actually filmed at the Georgia State Prison, and but because of that authentic feeling setting, there's all the power dynamics between the guards and the inmates are really like convincing. Um, you genuinely there when it gets to the end of the movie when they're playing the big game between the guards and the inmates, you genuinely want to root for the Mean Machine, which is the team name that the inmates came up with, and you really want them to succeed. Not just because they're underdogs, but because they've been put in this situation where they're frustrated with how the prison system works, and then like the guards are taking advantage of their authority and all that. Um, Now, the football sequences in this, while they're not as slick as like modern sports movies, they're still incredibly engaging because you have this like raw energy um, that feels very appropriate, for a bunch of untrained convicts uh, that are training to be in a football game against the team of guards. Um, and that whole raw feeling that was just a definite staple of the '70s cinema as well. I mean, and I think that's why I really like if I had to choose between this and the remake, I would definitely choose this one. I really enjoyed this one, even though I do enjoy the remake with Adam Sandler, and I'll be talking about that one a little bit later on. But I think after watching this for the first time, this week, I really enjoyed this one more so than the remake, um, which is likely to happen in a lot of situations when you're comparing an original film and remake. But sometimes there's remakes that are better than originals. So, but in my opinion, just it wasn't that way this time. Um, Now, there's definitely some elements that are dated in this movie. Some of the humor is, I don't know, I guess you could say a bit crude and un-PC by today's standards. Um, and the portrayal of women in this is very much of its time as well. Even though I, c- I, I can only remember like the one female character at the beginning, which is his girlfriend. But like he like as Burt Reynolds is leaving her house or whatever, like he before he does it, he like before he leaves, he slaps her in the face and stuff. So that was definitely just a thing of that of the time for those kind of movies and stuff. And that's definitely not something you'll see in nowadays. I know they kind of changed that up with the remake with Adam Sandler too. Um, but yeah, these aspects didn't really detract me too much from my enjoyment of the film. In fact, they almost kind of add to its charm. I'm gonna be if I'm being honest with you, just because it reminds you of the era that in which this movie was made. Um, Now, overall, I think watching the original Longest Yard was a fantastic way to kick off my Super Bowl week. Um, it's it's a classic, I think, for a reason. Even though I've only seen it once, I mean, it definitely feels like a classic to me. And it's funny, it's exciting, and surprisingly, kind of thought provoking at times. Even with it's light, it has a lighthearted tone. Um, so if you're looking for a fun classic movie to get you in the football spirit, you can't go wrong with this. The Burt Reynolds gem of a movie. Um, it's a testament to the power of like I guess of a good story. It has strong characters. And definitely like a dose of rebellious spirit, within it. And like I said, another reason I'm glad I started this movie because it definitely like put me in the mood to watch more football movies leading up to the Super Bowl. So let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. So, um, Greg, you said Necessary Roughness from 1991 is a great football comedy, but it's college football. That's okay. College football is cool. I mean, there's some movies that I'm covering this week. It's college football and high school football, and football's football, if you ask me. But I've never seen Necessary Roughness. I need to check that one out eventually as well. Um, Foz, the Crater Bowl. That's right. Yeah, the Crater Bowl. That would be a very exciting game, though. um, Greg, you said the replacements is another good one. Yeah, it is, and that's one I'm going to be talking about here a little bit later on. Um, Greg, the Ace Ventura it does, but I have plans for Ace Ventura later on this year on the channel. There's one point this week I've already got planned. I'm going to be doing a whole Jim Carrey week. So Ace Ventura and Ace Ventura When Nature Calls will definitely be a part of that week. Um, but yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and move on to the next movie that I watched this week. Let's see here. So that, and and during this like pre Super Bowl movie marathon, I just kind of stumbled upon this next movie. Um, and it's the 1986 movie Wildcats, starring Goldie Hawn. Now, this one had somehow escaped my radar all these years, And now I regret not discovering it sooner, especially after I talked to my wife about it, and she had seen it before, so she was like highly recommended to watch it, and I think her recommendation proved spot on. I thought this was a great movie. It tells this story of Molly McGrath, who's played by Goldie Hawn, and she's this high school track coach who's stepping into the role of leading the city's like worst football team that they have. Um, so going into this movie with minimal expectations, um, and not really knowing anything about it, beyond Goldie Hawn being in it and knowing it was a football movie, I was immediately hooked, with this movie. I was like, wow, this is, you know, within the first maybe half hour of the movie, I already knew that I was going to love this movie. And while it might not be a cinematic masterpiece or anything, it's definitely entertaining. And it embodies that whole spirit of the classic underdog story, like a lot of these movies I'm gonna be talking about do. Um, and Goldie Hawn, she really shines bright in this movie as being determined, and she's just kind of this unconventional type football coach. But she injects her her charisma that she does in like all her roles, and has a lot of comedic timing, if you will, in all her scenes. You can't help but like find yourself invested in her journey in this movie, to transform the team and and break down all these barriers that she's facing. Um, so the movie's charm kind of extends beyond Goldie Hawn in this. Wildcats has a surprisingly strong supporting cast, featuring like early roles for guys like Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. And this was both of those guys' first credited appearances in a movie. I believe Woody Harrelson was in another movie before this, but he wasn't credited for it. So this was both of those guys' first credited roles. Um, and then, seeing Robin Lively in this as well, like from Teen Witch and Karate Kid 3. Um, and then also Nick Corey or Jesus Garcia, he played Rod Lane in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So it was really cool seeing him in this, a different type of role. I think this might be the only other movie besides the Nightmare on Elm Street that I seen him in. Um, so it kind of, seeing those people also in this brought back like a layer of fun and nostalgia and all that. Um, and knowing that Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson would later team up in like classics from the '90s, like White Men Can't Jump and Money Train. It makes watching this movie and seeing them in this movie um, kind of insightful, I guess you could say. So I really enjoyed seeing them in this. So this next thing I want to talk about is it's kind of hilarious. It was pretty unexpected too. So not only in this movie is there a scene where we see Goldie Hawn in a bathtub and she's completely nude. Um, we also when we're introduced to the football team, and Goldie Hawn Molly is meeting them for the first time. Um, we see Wesley Snipes and Nick Corey. Um, they're in the locker room. They're also completely nude, and I was like, "What the hell?" And considering this was Wesley Snipes' first movie, it does kind of make you wonder if he had any regrets about exposing himself so early in his movie career. I don't know, but like he probably doesn't care. But he's so famous now. He's like, who gives a shit? Um, but adding to all of like the comedy and the chaos in this movie, there's this character. call him Peanut, and he's a member of the football team, and so he delivers this like super funny line, and it's out of nowhere, to where they're having this like post game party at Molly's house, and he's like standing over by the staircase, and on the staircase is Molly's daughters sitting there, and he comes up and talks to them, and he's compliments them on their costume that they made for their dog at the football game, and he says like, "Man, that mascot costume you made for your dog is a bad motherfucker." And that joke just kind of escalates even further when one of the subplots of the movie is Molly is going through this divorce and everything with her ex-husband, and so her ex-husband like shows up at the party, and I think he's there like to pick up their daughters, and he's just kind of he's appalled by the whole atmosphere of all the because they're all they're drinking, and just like he doesn't want that to be around his daughters, and that's understandable, for from come from his character, even though he's supposed to be portrayed as like the bad guy, and it's you can kind of understand why he's upset. um but he's this like I said, he's appalled by everything going on already, and then he starts to talk to Molly about it, and then his youngest daughter comes up, and she's innocent when she says it, because she doesn't realize what she's saying. So she just comes off across as so innocent, but she says, "Daddy, Daddy, Peanut gave us drinks and said President Muffley's costume was a bad motherfucker." And that's one of the funniest parts of the whole movie to me, just because I don't know what it is about hearing little kids dropping f bombs in movies, but it's always been like a childish humor thing for me. I think it's hilarious. Um, and while I was watching this movie, I noticed some very interesting parallels to The Waterboy. Um, and because both of these movies center on this like unlikely figure who's involved with one of the worst football teams around, who he then takes and transforms into a successful team. Um, so the whole theme of like acceptance and overcoming that initial rejection is also present in both of those movies. Um, and I know that's like a recurring trait in sports movies, but the similarities felt kind of particularly strong in this case. Um, but ultimately, Wildcats is a another feel good movie at its core. Um, it's overflowing with a lot of heart. I love Goldie Hawn in this. She does a fabulous job. And like I said, it might not be a masterpiece. It might not revolutionize sports movies, but it's fun. It's a fun '80s movie. It's definitely a good watch, and it will, leave you cheering for Goldie Hawn and her team. Um, so if you're in the mood for a lighthearted and entertaining football movie, or just simply a classic '80s flick with a really good cast and a good message, give Wildcats a shot. You might be surprised at how much you enjoy it. So let's go and see what's going on again in the chat. Oh well, we don't really have anything going on in the chat right now. Come on, guys, talk to me. Tell me about your favorite football movies. Tell me what football movies you don't like. But moving on, let me go ahead and go on to the next movie. Let's see here. So the next one, to continue on with this Super Bowl movie marathon, we now have what may be the most iconic football movie of all time, and that's Rudy. Now, this to me isn't just a sports movie or a football movie. It tells a story of perseverance and just celebration of the human spirit. that kind of transcends that whole genre of like football movies. Um, so this story is of Daniel Rudy Rudiger, a young man with unwavering determination to play football for Notre Dame. And despite lacking the his size and his grades and all that, um, it's a really I mean, this is absolutely a classic when it comes to underdog tales. It's based on a true story, you know. So the movie itself doesn't really sugarcoat his struggles, but instead kind of immerses us in this story of his like relentless pursuit to get to Notre Dame, which I think that makes his eventual triumph all the more rewarding for the viewer. Um, Now it's packed with a ton of different moments that I think is cemented itself in movie history. Um, Ned Beatty, who plays Rudy's dad in this, he does such an amazing job. And because he's initially like dismissive of Rudy's dreams, and um, but I think that's good when they do characters like that because it eventually, when he kind of changes his perception of everything, and he sees that, that Rudy has really accomplished his dream, uh, it makes his like acceptance of Rudy and the whole journey he's been on even more powerful. And Charles S. Dutton, who also is in this, plays like a mentor to Rudy, as the character Fortune, and he delivers a really good, performance in that role because he showed, he's like this mentor who's giving Rudy encouragement and just reminds him to not give up. Um, and it's a really good, and of course, like the climax in the end is really good. With when Rudy finally gets his chance to play, um, and it's just this really like overwhelming uh like feeling of years of pent up determination and passion has finally come to fruition. So I love this movie so much, and I think what really elevates the movie is its portrayal of hard work and dedication. Now, we witness Rudy's like efforts all throughout the movie. Is his with his academic struggles at school, and the constant rejection he's facing because he keeps sending letter after letter trying to get acceptance into Notre Dame. Um, but it keeps failing. But and he eventually does get that, and and I think that the movie allows us to kind of share in his frustration and his despair, making it making the ultimate success that he does receive feel earned and deeply satisfying. You genuinely you genuinely feel connected to Rudy's journey in this. When you're celebrating his victories with him, and you empathize with him in all of his defeats. So yeah, I think it's a really awesome example of getting totally immersed into a film. Um, Now, Sean Astin, who plays Rudy, in this, while this is not my favorite role of his, the Goonies is probably always going to be my favorite role, or Samwise Gamgee in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those are probably my two, but Rudy is definitely up there as one of his top roles that he's ever portrayed. Um, I mean, he gives a legendary performance as Rudy in this. He just kind of embodies that whole character with such earnestness, and he shows vulnerability, which it might really makes him likable in the character and kind of relatable in a lot of ways for some people. Um, Now, the supporting cast in this, like I said, are they shine just as brightly as Sean Astin, and besides Warren Beatty and Charles S. Dutton that I mentioned before, um, they had great performances, but also you see a young John Favreau in this, who plays his Rudy's friend. I can't for some reason I can't think what his name is at this at this moment, but he's like this he helps Rudy with his dream to try to get him because they're at this junior college, Holy Cross Junior College, and that's where they meet. And John Favreau plays like his not only just his friend but his tutor to try to help him get his grades up and everything so he can get accepted into Notre Dame. And at the same time, Rudy is trying to help his John Favreau's character with trying to meet girls. And it's definitely just a lot of fun moments that kind of brightens the film. Where because the film can be like um, kind of depressing at times, I guess. But ultimately, in the end, it has a really good message, about not giving up and all that. Um, and like I said earlier, the fact that this movie is based on a true story, uh, you know, it even includes a cameo from the real Rudy, Daniel Rudiger, and it adds this layer of like inspiration that kind of resonates deeply. Um, it serves, I guess, as a reminder um, that anything is possible, and with enough heart and determination, you can really accomplish anything. Um, so, and as I said before, also, Rudy is more than just a sports movie. Um, just so like just touching on that, like just to never give up and just give you enough heart and determination, anything's possible. Um, but the emotional like part of this film, especially this is the most emotional part of the film for me at least. Is the finale when it's because it's everything is paying off, and you see Rudy get to finally be in the play in the game, and his family's there to see him. But this movie is definitely a must watch for anyone that's a football movie fan or just a movie fan in general. This is an all time classic, um, and it gives off a lot of inspiration and reminder that even the smallest person can make a difference. Um, so let's see what's going on in chat again. Greg, you said, what about films with former football players like Brian Bosworth and Stone Cold? Bubba Smith, Police Academy. Yeah, I'll definitely because I'm actually going to be doing this next week is going to be I'm going to be doing a cop comedies show. So I'm going to be talking about the Police Academy films, and I'll also be talking about the Naked Gun films as well. Um, and Alex cares for Blazing Saddles and Porky's. Yeah, definitely. I mean, those are honorary mentions that we could definitely talk about. You said Jim Brown from The Running. I love The Running Man. That's another movie that I've already got planned to cover later this year. Um, he's also in He Got Game. Now that's He Got Game. I think that's the Denzel Washington movie. I've never seen that one, but I'm going to be doing next month a some different basketball movies too to kind of like uh, because of March Madness and everything going on next week with college basketball. So I thought that would be fun to cover those. But that was one I actually kind of had in mind to do, but I don't have that one planned. But I may get that one to later. I've never seen that one. He Got Game. Um, but I guess moving on, we could go to the next movie. Um, this next movie is probably the first football movie that I ever remember watching as a kid in the 90s. And this was around the time where my older brother Mike, he really started getting me into the sport of football since he was a big fan already, and especially of the Dallas Cowboys. Um, so I was watching the NFL games with him, and we was collecting trading cards and playing the football video games and all that fun stuff. Um, so around this time, my mom had bought me two VHS tapes. I can't remember what for. She just bought it for me, or if it was like a gift on a for something. But I just remember she got me these two tapes in particular at the same time. One of them was the Little Rascals '90s movie, and the other being this movie that I'm going to talk about next, which is Little Giants. Um, Little Giants is it's this movie from 1994 that kind of provides a tale of, again, acceptance and being the underdog and the power of that, believing in yourself. And it doesn't matter how small you are, just like with Rudy. No matter how small you might feel or how small you are, you always got to believe in yourself, not give up. Um, Now the movie stars Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill, and they're playing as these brothers, Danny and Kevin O'Shea, and it also features an up and comer at the time who ended up becoming this teenage like heartthrob to a lot of young girls um, in the '90s, and that's Devin Sawa. He's in this as Junior Floyd. Um, so this movie is a touchdown, I guess you could say, of nostalgia for me. It's a cherished childhood memory for myself. Um, the story itself revolves around this town called Urbana, Ohio, where the local Pee Wee football league is coached by Kevin O'Shea, who's super competitive, and he's only interested in selecting the best players for his Pee Wee football team, the Cowboys. Um, so several of the town's kids are show up for this tryout to be on the team, and unfortunately, they're rejected after, at, and especially Danny's daughter, Becky, who also goes by the name Icebox. She's also rejected, even though she's just as good as the other boy players. And she's also, upset because her uncle is running the team and he doesn't choose her. Um, so Becky convinces her dad, Danny, to form his own team and calls them the Little Giants. So this kind of little ragtag group of misfits, that were deemed unworthy by Kevin O'Shea, they set out to prove that talent isn't everything, and that heart can win sometimes. Um, so the sibling rivalry in this between Danny and Kevin makes for a great story, which is kind of fueled by years of competition between the two. Um, Ed O'Neill, who was known mainly for his gruff demeanor and his which was made popular by his role as Al Bundy on Married with Children. I think this character for him that perfectly embodies the win at all cost mentality, and Rick Moranis, who plays Danny in this, is is as always is nearly all of his films that he in all his roles he's this lovable nerdy guy with he has that feeling of proving himself as more than just a stereotype. Um, and and while the adults in this movie they kind of provide the framework for the movie, the real magic in this movie lies within the 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 kid actors. Like from Icebox, who's this tough as nails daughter of Danny, who just wants to play football. Um, to, you got Junior Floyd, played by David Sawa, that Becky, ultimately falls in love with, and he's just this like naturally gifted kid that's been overlooked in the town. Um, so with all those characters, that the kids play in this movie, there's a they each have their own like unique personality, and it's very fun to watch them in this. As I've gotten older, because when I'm a kid, I was watching this. I was just kind of focused on relating more to them because they were kids as well. But as I see this, I see all these differences as I'm watching the movie now, and they, like I said, all the kids have these really unique personalities that are fun to watch. Um, so the movie itself does this wonderful job of highlighting their like individual quirks and insecurities in those kids, which it makes the whole like self acceptance theme in the movie even more impactful, I think. Um, so there's a few cameos from like football legends in this, like John Madden and Emmitt Smith, and there's a couple other NFL stars, where they get lost and they decide to stop, and assist the little giants in their training. And it kind of adds this whole layer of authenticity and humor to the film, and kind of ironic as the team that the little giants play in this. Are the Cowboys, and at this time in the NFL, Emmitt Smith was a running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Um, so there's like a foreshadowing moment in this. So there's the kid that they get to kind of help coach the team. He's really good with computers and all that, and he keeps talking about this play that he's created called the annexation of Puerto Rico. Um, and like I said, it's referenced a few different times throughout the movie, and it feels like foreshadowing because it's arguably one of the most iconic moments of the movie, where it showcases the team's creativity and willingness to embrace like that whole underdog status to winning the game overall. Um, Greg, you say, yeah, the intimidation scene where they're like they eat like I think it's like Alka Seltzers or something or something. I can't remember what it is that they actually get, but like, and it looks like they're all foaming at the mouth. Yeah, there's a lot of great funny scenes in this. And Little Giants it's more than I think it's more than just a fun, family friendly football movie. Um, like I said, it's a reminder that true victory kind of lies not just in winning a game, but in the journey of like discovering yourself and sticking up for yourself. I think that I think that's what's most important when you are trying to find a message in this movie. I think that's the main thing, and I think it's a very good nostalgic movie, especially for kids like myself who grew up in the '90s. So it's definitely one that can leave you kind of uplifted and inspired. And I think that's the whole purpose of a lot of these football movies. Um, But yeah, just yeah, like Greg says, kinship and determination. It's what all about these football movies, especially the more popular ones, are all about. And I think that's what appeals to so many people, and why people, while they not be may not be big football fans like myself, they're still drawn to these movies, and their stories are um, very awesome to watch. Let's see. So the next movie that I got on this list that I watched this week was, well, let me just start this by saying you could forget Gatorade, because Bobby Boucher's high quality H2O is the secret ingredient to this genuinely hilarious movie. I mean, this is for me. The Waterboy is not just a fun watch. I mean, it's it's a comedic masterpiece for me. And it also, is probably my favorite football movie of all time, and it's definitely up there as one of my top Adam Sandler movies. I've seen this movie more times than I can count, and it still delivers every single time. Um, so coming off the heels of Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore movies like that Adam Sandler was doing at the time, The Waterboy it felt like Sandler at his peak. Um, so the whole premise of this movie is pretty simple. Bobby Boucher, who is this 31-year-old water boy with just a bottled up volcano of rage inside him. He gets fired from his water boy position at the University of Louisiana, the Louisiana Cougars. Um, but he desperately wants to have this water boy job, so he finds this new path that leads him to one of the worst teams around, which is the South Central Louisiana um, University. Uh, Let me start that over. The South Central Louisiana State University Mud Dogs, and this is where I think the magic truly begins in the movie. Um, so Adam Sandler's performance as Bobby is like this master class of comedic timing, and he perfectly just embodies Bobby's awkwardness and his social anxiety and just that suppressed fury that lies beneath the surface. Um, you can't help but root for the underdog in this. It's a because he's a character who, despite his age, he just seems genuinely innocent and vulnerable. So, um, the whole pivotal moment of the movie is is when he first, he comes to the new school and that where he was hired by Coach Klein, played by Henry Winkler, and they're giving him hell and stuff, just like the last team that he was working for, and so that this whole pivotal moment in the movie is when he finally unleashes that fury within. He tackles Gee, who's the Mud Dogs quarterback, and I think this is probably one of the most satisfying scenes in the movie, where we watch Bobby unleash all this pent up frustration on the football field, and it's pretty hilarious. Like I said, Henry Winkler, who plays Coach Klein, is he recognizes all this like raw potential within Bobby, and he's desperately like clinging to the hope that he can join the Mud Dogs because this is exactly the guy they've been looking for. We watch Bobby grow as a player and just his rise as a player and just as a person in general in this is hilarious as it is inspirational. Um, and I wanted to, so like that scene after he tackles him, like, and he's trying. I wanted to mention a quote in this. So after like he tackles Gee and he gets up and they're all like crowded around him, Bobby says, "So that's what open up a can of whoop ass feels like." And Coach Klein says to him, "Son, you just opened up a whole case of whoop ass." Uh, and I love that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. But The Water Boy is, like I said, it's more than just a football movie. Um, it's a full blown comedic masterpiece. There's tons of quotable lines in this, and random scenes that are just like over the top, funny, and even the characters in this all of them are so outlandish that they really have to be seen to believe. If you've never seen this, I mean, you definitely it's one that you have even if you're not a football fan, if you're just you love funny movies, you love Adam Sandler, and for some reason you've not seen The Waterboy, definitely need to watch it. I could literally dedicate an entire stream to dissecting every scene of this movie because the humor in it is just nonstop. I love it. But Kathy, I have to mention Kathy Bates in this. So Kathy Bates, this is probably one of her best roles she's ever had. In this, she plays Helen Boucher, which is Bobby's mama. and she's just an absolute treasure in this movie. Her whole like protectiveness of Bobby is both hilarious and at times kind of strangely touching. Um, so her whole perception of the world, where everything from foosball to girls to Ben Franklin is the devil to her, and just every one of those jokes throughout the movie about this being the devil, that being the devil, it's hilarious, and she delivers those lines so well in this. Um, like the dinner scene. So this is another one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The dinner scene with Coach Klein, where he comes over and he's trying to convince her to let Bobby play football. Um, so when they sit down for dinner, there's this huge cooked snake on the table, um, and there's also promise of dessert, which is to me a comedic gold mine. Um, so in this scene, like I said, there's that snake that's cooked on the table, and Coach Klein says to Mama, says, so exactly what part of the snake am I eating? And she said, well, snakes don't really have parts, but if I were to call it anything, it would be his knee. And then, like I said, he was also promised dessert, and so he asked her. He says, "What's for dessert?" And then, right as after he says that, we all like hear this noise in the background of a bug zapper electrocuting some kind of animal, and then you know they're kind of glance at it, and then she glances back and says, "Squirrel." And so because you just hear that squirrel getting zapped, electrocuted by this bug zapper. It's, I don't know. It's just extremely funny to me. But and there's this whole scene, the ending of that scene where, after she's kind of turned down Coach Klein, she doesn't want Bobby to play football. He's leaving as he turns to Bobby and says, he goes, when I was younger, my mama didn't want me to get a Roy Orbison tattoo, but what mama don't know won't hurt her. And like he pulls his pants down and shows he's got a Roy Orbison portrait tattoo on his ass cheek. And it's stupid stuff like that. I love it. I mean, that's definitely my type of humor. Um, but even after Bobby, he goes on and plays football anyway. Uh, there and he's kind of hiding the fact that he's playing football from his mama. He's going to these practices and stuff, and he comes back from practice and he has a black eye, and she asked him like when as he comes in, he's got that black eye. She said, "Did they ever catch that gorilla that escaped from the zoo and punched you in the eye?" He's like, "No, mama, he's still at large," or something like that. But it shows that even though she's overprotective of Bobby in this, it shows um, you know a mama's true love for her child, and e- eventually she kind of changes her tone later in the movie as she begins to realize how important Bobby is to the town and to the team, and how everybody loves him and all that. So yeah, I mean, Kathy Bates in this is just she's awesome. I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite roles of hers. Um, Fairuza Balk, who I talked about before on here when I was covering the movie Return to Oz, she plays Bobby's criminally inclined girlfriend, Vicky Valancourt, in this. And I love her character in this because Vicky is genuinely supportive of Bobby, trying to help him break out of his shell and all that. And her appearance at when Bobby's having to take the exam to test back to get back into college and play football. She appears at this window and with a cardboard sign that says "Want me to kill them." Um, and then there's also another part where she like does these modifications to Bobby's lawnmower that he gets around town and all that. Um, and she says something like, "I hope you like what I did to your lawnmower," and then it just cuts to him like going flying down the road on that ride lawnmower. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I absolutely love her in this. I love all of the characters in this. I think that whole like Southern hospitality is down, uh, Louisiana lifestyle. I think it really just adds more charm to this movie. And even the smaller roles in this, like Farmer Fran or the Colonel Sanders professor, and even the wrestler Big Show has a cameo in this as Captain Insano. I think that they're all like perfectly cast for this, and they just kind of contribute to the overall hilarity of it. Um, and every element of this movie just resonates because of the humor within it, and I think it's definitely why because of my sense of humor, and this is my definitely my type of humor. It's my favorite football movie of all time. So as Mama would say, and I would say as well, check this movie out and don't be a devil, because not checking this movie out makes you the devil. That's what Mama would say. But if you, like I said, if you haven't seen The Waterboy, you're really missing out on a top tier football movie and an Adam Sandler classic in general. It's definitely guaranteed, I think, to keep you laughing long after the movie is done. Me and some of my best friends who also love The Waterboy, we always are quoting it. We're always talking about it, referencing it. So yeah, let's definitely absolutely check it out if you've never seen it. Um, and I see that we got some talk of The Waterboy in the chat here from Greg and my wife Candace. Yeah, no, Colonel Sanders, you're wrong. That's yeah, there's something wrong with his Abdullah Oblongata. Um, love the scenes with Clint Howard. Yeah, I did. I love. That's another one. I'm glad you brought that up because I love Clint Howard in this, and especially when him and the other his friend are like sitting at the game. He's like, um, he's the best. What's he say? He's the best fullback or something, cornerback or something. Since Joe Montana or Joe Montana, and he goes, and then his friends like, Joe Montana was a quarterback, you idiot, and he says, I said Joe Montana. So yeah, some of the brief scenes, and there's a thing with Clint Howard that I have a theory on in this movie. So, um, Gee, the quarterback for the Mud Dogs in this, when he's tackled by Bobby, um, they like wake him up with like the smelling salt or whatever, and he just uh, who there or something like that. And then later in the movie, when Vicky is trying to get all the town people together to get Bobby to come back and play football again, when she goes and wakes up Clint Howard's character in his tent, he does the same thing. The who there? So I have this theory that Clint Howard's character in this is Gee's like long lost father. Now that's probably not correct, but I don't know. I think it would be it's an interesting theory because of those shared lines that they have. Um, yeah, and Captain, like I said, Captain Insano's, the Big Show's in this, and that's a really funny scene because like Bobby's on the line with him because he's a big fan of him, and he like offers his services to Captain Insano to be his water boy, and Captain Insano says, "What are you, kid? 11, 12?" And Bobby says, "I am 31 years old." And of course they start laughing at him on TV and all that. So, but that guy's a virgin. But yeah, like my wife Candace, we quote it all the time. Like it's something that we're always quoting and like just referencing. Same with my friends as well that love the movie. Um, Greg, you said Clint Howard. It's time to keto kick some names and take. It's time to take. It's time. Oh, it's the keto. Okay. It's time to take to kick some names and take some ass or something. Yeah, I remember that part now. Like I had forgotten until you mentioned that. But yeah, he's always messing up his words and stuff, much like I just did. So, but yeah, definitely, the Waterboy. I love it. It's one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies, and definitely my favorite football movie of all time. Um, so moving on. Oh, you're good, Greg. Don't worry. Typos happen. I do it a lot, brother. So don't worry about that. Um, so Varsity Blues is the next movie that I have on this list. This is another one of my favorite football movies. It's one of my top favorite football movies, and it was released in 1999, and it might be remembered by some who've seen the movie because of Ali Larder's whipped cream bikini scene that she has. But I think to reduce uh, the movie to that alone would be a disservice to the movie because it's surprisingly effective, and it's a very really good football movie. It's I think mainly a drama, but it does have some comedy aspects to it as well. I mean, it is an MTV Films production, so um, and it's another one of those movies that the underlying tone is it's a football movie, but I think it feels like more than just another football movie because it's about how these kids that are that play on this high school football team, they're really enduring all of this like suffocating pressure from their parents and just the town in general because this town is obsessed with football. And a lot of them are wanting to get out of that town after they graduate and all that. Um, so it kind of exhibits this com- complexity of like teenage rebellion, and their whole search for their identities is kind of shown, and to just kind of escape this reality that they have to live in, because of y- um, because they don't really want to be there. They don't really want to be there anymore because of this. But some of them do. Some of them do. There's some, but the main character in this, James Vanderbeek, who plays Mox, Jonathan Mox, and they call him Mox. He's more of this like smart and like bookish guy that's on the football team just because he's kind of pressured into by his dad because his dad played for the same high school football team, and but he's not really worried about playing the games because he's just mainly seen as this backup quarterback that's just trapped in this town in Texas, and he dreams of escaping that legacy of like being in football, and he's wanting to go to Brown University and study there to to make a career for himself. Um, but his friend, who is the star quarterback for this football team, Lance Harbor, who's played by Paul Walker, he ends up suffering this career-threatening injury, and so Mox is kind of thrust into the spotlight, to play these last few games of the year. Um, and it just kind of there's all this pressure is lying on him now, and to lead his team of the Coyotes to victory. But there's also the character in this of the coach Kilmer, which is played by John Voight, and John Voight he really delivers a really powerful performance in this, because he's another guy. It's like a real son of a bitch when it comes to a coach or just any kind of character in a movie, but so where it kind of borderlines on being abusive to these students, these players on his football team. Um, and he kind of embodies that whole win at all costs mentality as well. Where he's just goes to the point of sacrificing the well being of his players for the sake of just maintaining his reputation and the town's identity or whatever. Um, Now, and while his methods are wrong, Voight he imbues Kilmer with just a certain like I don't know, I guess tormented humanity, hinting at the immense pressure he himself is facing. But and they try to imply that in the movie with his character, but in the end, like he's just like I said, he's just a real son of a bitch that only cared about himself. Is what I got from that character. But and there this also has a really good supporting cast. Um, Ron Lester, who plays the lovable and overweight Billy Bob, and I think Billy Bob is one of the best characters of this whole movie because he kind of comes off as like the comedy relief in the movie, and he when we were first introduced to him, he's kind of like a kind of cartoonish in a way, um, but there's this whole struggle with him in the movie as it goes on with like physical limitations and the pressure to perform, and it's both like relatable and I think heartbreaking as well. Now Scott Kahn also in this plays Tweeter, and you might know Scott Kahn if you like the wrestling movie Ready to Rumble. He also plays in that. Um, but his whole like energetic, and he's kind of like crazy acting. He's a linebacker. It's kind of unpredictable with a lot of stuff he does in the movie when he like steals the cop car and gets naked and has all the naked girls in the cop car with him as he's driving through town. Um, and like I mentioned before, of course, you also got the character Lance Harbor, who was played by Paul Walker, and he has very limited screen time in this movie, and but he for the parts that he is in the movie, he really kind of shows this internal conflict of where he's been injured, and he's aware of all these expectations, which end up working out good for him in the end. So, but anyway, but perhaps the most compelling character about this from this movie, besides Mox, the main character, is Allie Larder as Darcy. Um, Now, while initially appearing as like the stereotypical blonde bombshell character, um, her character ends up kind of being a little bit more complex because she's trapped in this kind of cycle of seeking validation from like through her relationships with like all these football stars. Um, because like after because she's dating Lance, and after he gets hurt, she tries to pursue Mox, and that's where the whole whipped cream bikini scene comes in. But like I said, she just kind of feels like she's trapped in this cycle of like going through because she's trying to earn that validation, because she just wants this different life for herself, and she wants to get out of that town, but she's just unsure, how to break free from all that. And that whole vulnerability with her, and it kind of adds this layer of like sadness to the film's like otherwise energetic tone, I guess. Um, but so yeah, you definitely feel sorry for her in this at at a point in the movie. Um, and the Varsity Blues, it has a bunch of different memorable scenes, for me at least, to where it has this lasting appeal. Um, like I said before, the whipped cream bikini scene, while it's often criticized, I think it still does serve. Um, it serves as like a highlight to the objectification and expectations placed upon young women that are like in high school and college and all that. Um, you know, I think that that kind of shines through, beyond like the film's portrayal of camaraderie and rebellion and all that. Um, Now, I think that some of my favorite scenes in this movie, like I'm just going to talk about a couple of them before I move on. There is this whole scene that Mox gives his speech, and I think it's probably one of the most iconic moments in the movie is where it's like he gives I don't want your life scene. So as Mox leads the Coyotes to victory, he makes this like bold decision to find Coach Kilmer and calling this play that prioritizes like this guy that's on the team that was injured named Wendell, or his whole future over this potential like touchdown. So so because he changes this play without Coach Kilmer knowing, this is coupled with like Mox's like declaration of like I don't want your life and all that. I think that it kind of like brings the film theme together of like where you just choose your own path over society's expectations. Um, and another like I mentioned, I think Billy Bob is one of the best characters in this movie. There's this whole scene with him where he has the breakdown and he's sidelined temporarily due to his health, and he just has this emotional breakdown scene where he's sitting. It's like as if he's going to kill himself because he's got this rifle out there with him on the football field, and you know, and Mox just kind of gives a talk to him and kind of just reminds him that they need him and that he is worth more than what Coach Kilmer thinks of him and all that. Um, so yeah, I love that scene. And then but I guess I could mention one more, which is a pretty powerful scene too. Is with the championship game, walkout when like Mox gives Coach Kilmer the option of like either we go out there without you or we don't go out there at all. So that's where he kind of like, John Voight's character of Coach Kilmer just kind of like realizes that he's been very abusive to these boys and he's not, he respects their wishes and they go on to win the game and he ends up retiring and he doesn't coach anymore. So, while this movie does kind of occasionally fall into the whole cliche and relies on a lot of dated humor, I think it ultimately succeeds in, delivering a really good story about the pressures of being in a small town. I mean, I know all about that. I live in a small town myself in Eastern Kentucky. So it's definitely, I can definitely kind of relate in that aspect. It's just it's a movie that kind of resonates with anyone. Um, I think who has ever felt trapped by expectations and had to challenge authority from time to time. I think it has a really good message in that aspect, and and yeah, the whipped cream bikini scene is still pretty memorable as well. So, um, but let's see what you guys are talking about. Hey Russell, I see Russell's in here. Hey, how you doing, man? Glad to have you here. Um, I see Russell mentioning Spaceballs. Man, let me tell you, I love that's one I'm gonna do later this year. I got it planned as well. That I love that movie. That's one of my favorite like sci-fi. And get this, I actually love Spaceballs, even though it's a parody of Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I love Spaceballs even more than Star Wars. I mean, I think it's great. I think Rick Moranis is genius. Mel Brooks is a genius. Um, yeah, so I can't wait to do that one later on when I have that scheduled. Um, and Greg, you said that's probably your favorite Conan and Uncle Buck. Oh yeah, love Uncle Buck too. Love John Candy. Love John Candy. We all do in our household. Um, Russell, you said you're watching Dr. Mordred with Jeffrey Combs, a Charles Band cult. Yeah, I've never seen Dr. Mordred, but I've heard a lot about it. I want to check it out eventually. Is it kind of like a ripoff of Doctor Strange, the Doctor Strange character from Marvel Comics? I'm not sure. And Russell, you said Mel Brooks film silent movie with all star cameos is fun. I've never seen that one either. I need to watch. I love Mel Brooks. I've seen a ton of his movies: Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, History of the World Part One. I love his stuff. But I've never seen silent movie. I need to check that one out. Um, Greg's ever seen Crash and Burn? Russell Robot just ripped it off. I haven't seen those either. Huh. There's a lot of movies I haven't seen, guys. You wouldn't believe, like if but and I've got a lot of the movies that I've got planned for this year is movies that I've seen before, but there's several that I have not seen before, like a couple this week. Some of these football movies I've been covering, I haven't watched before. So yeah, I've had fun with all these movies I've watched this week too. Um, but I guess moving on from Varsity Blues. The next movie is actually another movie that I had never seen before. Heard a lot about it because it was directed by Oliver Stone, and Oliver Stone is just is legendary filmmaker. So I said I've seen this one before, but I heard a lot about it, so I'm gonna go ahead and check it out. And that's Oliver Stone's Any Given Sunday. Um, and it's another movie where it's just got have this has this raw and kind of unsettling expose of the realities of behind the scenes and like professional sports. This movie was released in 1999, and it hits you with this force of I don't know, leaving you breathless and this dissecting its layers long after the movie's over. Um, Now, while some may criticize its kind of over the top theatrics and all that, I think that these elements kind of contribute to the movie's greatness. I think it was a really truly unforgettable viewing experience that I from watching this movie this past week. I was really glad that I watched this one. Um, So the movie itself, it kind of plunges, like I said, head first into that world of professional football, behind the scenes type stuff. And there's this team called the Miami Sharks, which was they were at once a dominant football team, but now they're struggling to kind of stay afloat. And at the helm of this team is the coach, Tony D'Amato, which is played by Al Pacino, and he's just been this legendary coach who's battling to hold on to his like legacy in a league that has kind of left him behind, I guess. Um, and he's just he's getting older and stuff too, and he's the landscape is just kind of rapidly evolving to where it's kind of leaving him behind, and he just kind of clings on to these old school like values of the game, and at the same time he just faces all this like pressure from this new generation of players who are obsessed with just like fame and fortune and you know everything that comes with that. Um, so, but Pacino, he delivers a absolutely awesome performance in this. And it was one like I'd never seen before from him, where he just kind of embodies that whole old school coach mentality, to where he kind of has this like gravelly voice, and that's typical Pacino though, and it's just like he's like it's almost like he commands attention, and yeah, I think it's some of the stuff, some of the scenes he has where he gives these speeches and stuff throughout the movie are really like inspiring and for and they're very important for I think sports movie history because it kind of gives this like whole testament in itself to like distill this like essence of struggle and perseverance and just stuff like that. Um, Now, just to counterbalance, like Al Pacino's character, Tony's character, Tony. Uh, there's this character, which is the new owner of the team, Christina, who's played by Cameron Diaz, and she's just young girl because like her dad was the original owner. He passed away, so she took up the role of owning the team, and she's really young and ambitious, and she's kind of just kind of moving this franchise now into the future. Um, and like I said, she's this businesswoman who is driven by like financial success, and she's putting in all these players' heads, like Jamie Foxx's character, and he kind of changes after it's like she kind of points him as the the lead, the captain of the team, or even when he was like this, and he plays this character named Willie Bremen, and he was just like this third string like quarterback who was kind of just put into this situation after Dennis Quaid's character, which is he was their quarterback, gets injured, and so like Willie Beeman is thrown into this situation where he's got to take this spot, and he's kind of a different breed of player. I mean, he's extremely talented, but he's very arrogant, and like I said, he gets in that mentality where he's more concerned with his like personal brand than he is the team. Um, but Jamie Foxx does a killer job in this as Willie Beeman, to where he navigates the character's journey from like being humble to this kind of asshole like media darling. Um, all while at the same time he's grappling with these pressures of fame and um, with these like with these like grapples of fame and like the responsibility of like leading the team. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. But anyway, he he perfectly captures like this whole like cocky swagger in the movie, and it's infuriating at times. It really is because you want to like his character first, and then you kind of hate his character. Um, but I mean, it kind of comes full circle at the end, and I think he kind of really redeems himself. But like I said, beyond like Pacino and Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz, this has a really awesome cast in it, as well, like a supporting cast. Um, Now Dennis Quaid, he plays Jack or Cap as they call him in this, who like he's like this aging starring quarterback, who gets injured, is replaced by Willie Beeman, Jamie Foxx's character, um, and so he's just kind of hanging on by a thread with his career and all that. So it kind of forces to kind of confront his mortality, I guess, on and off the field. James Woods is in this. He's like the team doctor, Dr. Mandrake, I think his name was. Um, but he's just more concerned with covering up these injuries than protecting the players. So he's kind of an asshole too. And then you also got LL Cool J in this, who is one of I think he's like a wide running back or wide receiver in it on the team, and he plays his character's name is Julian Washington, I think. Um, and like he's this super talented guy, but he's also like struggling to like kind of balance his loyalty with the team, and with his because of his like own ambition. So him and Jamie Foxx's character, when they kind of get this like asshole mentality of like everything's about them and stuff, and the money and everything about the money. Um, yeah, they're kind of in that same boat with one another. But I think what really elevates this movie is beyond the whole typical sports movie, um, stuff that's out there, is because it's this portrayal of the game's like darker side. because you're really getting insight into the ugliness of professional sports and all the dealings that they do with teams and coaches and players and the owners and all that stuff. And there's a lot of politics involved, unfortunately. Um, but I think that's everything. Politics suck, if you ask me. Um, but I think in this, Oliver Stone, he doesn't really shy away from depicting the physical toll that football also takes on the players, which because it shows some really gruesome injuries in this. Like some of them are like in constant pain, and there's that whole like long term consequences of like chronic concussions and stuff. Um, I think he also kind Oliver Stone, he also kind of exposes that too. Like I said, when we're kind of getting insight to, he really exposes it because from what I understand, a lot of what we see in this movie, that's how a lot of like real life players and teams and everything and their whole politics within the system is like. So, um, I don't know. I'm curious if like that it was kind of if it was controversial or not. If people got mad at Oliver Stone for kind of like exposing that whole like part of that business. Um, but anyway, while some may like criticize this movie for its kind of exaggerated character, because a lot of the characters are kind of exaggerated, but to an extent almost realistic too. I think it just those things kind of contribute to the movie's overall impact. I and it's not a movie that's about just winning or losing. Um, I think it's about the sacrifices that are made and the compromises that are like endured and just the human drama that unfolds beneath the surface of sports. Um, it's a movie that I think challenges us to question that whole price of glory and true meaning of success. Um, but yeah, I really liked it. I really liked this movie a lot. It's not one of my favorites, but I think as far as like the cast goes, this has one of the more like uh, A-lister cast, definitely. So I mean, I can definitely see why this movie is popular, why a lot of people like this movie. Um, and I definitely, I would be willing to watch it again at some point. Because that's the thing, I do that quite a bit. A lot of these movies that I have seen already this week, I've watched them quite a bit over time. Like I said, Little Giants was the first football movie I remember seeing, and I've seen that movie countless times over the years. Same with Waterboy and all that. Um, but Russell, you said you love Any Given Sunday. Yeah, it's a great movie, man. I was like really, really entertained by the movie, and I really like it. And I think I'm gonna have because my wife Candace, she likes she enjoys some football movies sometimes. She actually we watched the remake last night of The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler, and she'd seen it before, but it had been a long time, and so I may try to get her to watch this movie Any Given Sunday sometime. I think she would probably like it. But I guess moving on, guys. So after Any Given Sunday, the next movie on this list is a movie that was actually mentioned earlier, I think, by Greg. Greg mentioned this movie, and that's The Replacements. And The Replacements is, these came out in the year 2000, and it's definitely a comedy, but I think with a lot of these football movies, there's whether they're labeled as a drama or a comedy, they all have kind of like a multitude of different genres kind of blended in. Like because a lot of these football movies, if they're considered comedies, there's some drama involved. There's action involved. So, but aside from all those categories of movies, this one would be more in the guilty pleasure category for me. Um, and I mean, I think this movie is surprisingly like heartfelt and funny. Um, and while it doesn't really reinvent the genre or anything, and it's not some masterpiece, it definitely excels in its like character work. And I think it's just another celebration of the whole underdog spirit. So it's definitely like entertaining for me, with that whole blend of like slapstick comedy and athletic, prowess that they have in this. Um, it's a movie that kind of understands the whole drama and camaraderie of like of football players, even when these players are a bunch of just misfits and has-beens. So with this one, the whole premise is that this professional football team called the Washington Sentinels, the whole team, including the coach, goes on strike, which leaves the owners of the team scrambling to kind of find a replacement squad to salvage the season. Um, Gene Hackman, who was originally one of the he was the coach for this team at one point, but he was fired. Um, and he plays Coach Jimmy McGinty. Like I said, he was fired previously, but once this happens and they had to replace all the players and the coach on the team with what people are calling scabs or whatever. Um, he's tasked with this mission to find all of these new team players for the team in the most unexpected of places. And once he starts this journey of trying to assemble all these guys together as a team, it's definitely hilarious of how like they get these guys, where these guys are from, their backgrounds, and how they associate with each other as a team. Um, now, and I think that's where like the heart and soul of this movie lies in is the cast of this movie. Starting with Keanu Reeves, who is in this role that kind of balances determination with like a comedic touch. He stars as this guy named Shane Falco, who was this former like Ohio State quarterback. Um, and he's like had this whole thing where people the only thing they remember him from is this game called, it was the Sugar Bowl where he choked in the end. So that kind of gives a whole like foreshadowing of his character of how he's going to redeem himself from all of that. And he kind of perfectly embodies that weight of like potential that's been unrealized and that yearning for like a second chance. And Shane Falco isn't just trying to win games. He's battling his own demons in this, and just that crushing expectation that he's destined to be a failure. Um, so beyond Shane Falco, the supporting cast in this is a lot of great character acting. Orlando Jones is in this. He plays Clifford Franklin, he was like this supermarket worker. I think or something. I think he was like worked in a supermarket. So because there's like when they first show him, like there's a guy that steals like a Twinkie or something. So like he takes off running after this guy, and he stops him, but like he goes to try to catch the Twinkie, and he doesn't catch it, lands on the ground, and he ends up stepping on it. So and that's a lot of the things with these guys. Like we see their flaws and stuff when we first meet them, but they all like redeem themselves in the end, and because it's part of that whole underdog like classic story. Um, Now, moving on from Orlando Jones, who played Clifford Franklin, we also have Faison Love and Michael Telefero, I think is how you say his name, where they play these guys, Jamal and Andre Jackson, who they're these brothers, and they were like these like bouncers for a club. So, and they're more concerned with like their pregame rituals than they are like the actual game. And then you have Risa Fons, who plays Nigel Gruff, and you may know Risa Fons from. Here's another Adam Sandler reference. He was in Little Nicky as Adrian, and Nicky's brother who tries to become the new devil and take over Earth and send everybody on Earth to hell. Um, but really fun, seeing him in this one. I love his character in this one. He's just like this Welsh ex-soccer hooligan turned football kicker who kind of adds this kind of unpredictable danger because I think he like owes money or something to like these like loan sharks or something like that. Um, but these guys are like constantly after him throughout the whole movie. And then we also got John Favreau showing up. John Favreau who was in Rudy. He's also shown up here in another football movie in The Replacements, and I really love his character in this as well. Um, now, like I said, John Farrell, he was like this alcoholic linebacker. I think his name was like Daniel Bateman or something. So he really gives a really good performance in this, and I love his like relationship with Nigel's character, is because every time Nigel does something good, like uh, John Favreau's character gets like crazily excited and he's like runs after him and stuff and tries to tackle him. Um, but I think what makes The Replacements so memorable to me are the scenes that really showcase that the team's evolution from this collection of like individuals who were not doing so great in life, or had their own flaws, to where they kind of just come together as this cohesive unit and make themselves better in the end, for a lot of different reasons. And there's a scene in this where like it's playing the song "I Will Survive." It's doing this whole montage, and I love this scene because it's just you know unadulterated fun. It really is. The team, they all like gather at this local bar, and they each like reluctantly join in as a rendition of "I Will Survive," and it's kind of awkward, but as the song progresses on, they kind of shed. They ain't worried about it, or they didn't worry what people think about it. So they kind of embrace that camaraderie, and they're like all like singing and dancing and stuff. And it's a really good scene in the movie. I love that. And I like how Nigel, whenever he's doing his kicks, like he has this like, kind of like pre-kick ritual where he has to like drink a bunch of beer down and before he does his kick, and um, it's just it's ridiculous and hilarious. I love it. But yeah, the Replacements, it isn't like that gritty, realistic portrayal of like professional football, but it's more of a stylized, feel good like comedy that embraces its own absurdity at times. Um, but beneath the surface of all that, I think really lies a genuine appreciation for the sport and the people who play it. Um, it's a story again about second chances and just overcoming limitations, about finding strength, in unlikely places. Um, I think the movie reminds us that success isn't always measured in wins and losses, but more so in like personal growth and camaraderie and all that. Um, even when the odds are stacked against you, I think that's the message I got from this movie. And this is like I said, I love. I've seen this one several times. I love it. So yeah, it's definitely one for you guys to check out if you've never seen it. Is The Replacements. Um, let's see what's going on in chat. I see Russell's in here talking about Burt Reynolds and uh, the movie Hooper. Yeah, that's a good one. And let's see what else. The Gator films. Yeah, those are good. I love Gator. Um, Greg, you said can't forget The Best of Times with Kurt Russell. Now that's another one. I actually almost put that one on the list to watch this week. I've never seen that one, but I'm highly interested because I love both Kurt Russell and Ron Williams. So I'm highly interested in seeing that one. Yeah, I'll definitely watch that one at some point. Um, oh, thank you, Tom. So Tom says that Crater Mania should have a lot more views. I agree with you, Tom. I think it should too, but it is what it is. And I'm glad to have you guys here. Even if I do have a small crowd, I appreciate all of you guys being here with me and listen to me ramble on about these movies. Um, so I guess I can go ahead and move on to the next movie. So let's see. I just did the replacements. So the next movie on this list is going to be Remember the Titans. And so let me just go ahead and get serious for a minute. So this movie uh, is another true story, much like how Rudy was. And I absolutely love this movie. I think it has a wonderful message. I think that a lot more people in today's world should watch this movie. Um, because it has a lot of stuff dealing with prejudice and treating people different because they look different or they act different, come from a different lifestyle, whatever. And I think all of that mentality is bullshit. To treat someone different because they're of a different race or a different lifestyle or whatever. I mean, that's absolute bullshit. And to have that mentality to think it's you're superior because you're not like them, I can't stand people like that. I mean, I think it's you know, what makes you any different from or any better from people that are different from you. And I think this movie is definitely what this world needs because it definitely needs to teach some people that have that mentality a lesson. But anyway, not to get too political about all this, I'll go ahead and jump in the movie. This is a super feel good movie with heart and hope, and like I said, a very powerful message um, about overcoming prejudice. It was released in 2000. It's a Walt Disney movie. Um, the film, I think, to this day continues to resonate with a lot of audiences. Not just for the football sequences in the movie, but just for that whole portrayal of integration in a kind of a racially divided America. Um, Now, and this isn't just a movie about winning a championship. It's about winning trust and respect and ultimately unity. Um, so the movie itself, it centers on the 1971 T.C. Williams High School football team in Alexandria, Virginia, which is forced to integrate black and white players under the new appointed head coach, Herman Boone, who's played by Denzel Washington. And I think this is one of Denzel Washington's best roles that he ever played. Um, so so Boone in this is he's kind of like this force of nature. He's a very stern guy who demands discipline, respect, and above all, a commitment to seeing each other as teammates, not as just as representatives of different races. Um, so he kind of puts out this unwavering like intensity where his delivery and his all of his lines are very sharp and his presence is commanding. I mean, you definitely get that with a lot of Denzel's roles, and I absolutely love Denzel Washington. Um, but it really makes you believe that he could like truly whip any team into shape, both on and off the field. Um, and his commitment to the whole equality thing is just it's unwavering. Like he's truly determined to make a change since coming to this school. And And he, like I said, Denzel, he delivers a performance that is both really inspiring and just this like deeply like human that showcases the toll that constant pressure takes on him, and so when facing off against Boone in this movie is the existing head coach Bill Yost, who's played by Will Patton, and Yost is this he's like this beloved hometown hero who's up for like the Hall of Fame and all that, and he's a coach with just this dedicated following and a deep understanding of the game, but and Will Patton, he portrays this character as just a man wrestling with his own biases and just that potential injustice, I guess, of me being of being passed over for a job he deserves. Um, so he initially in the film resists Boone from being the new coach, but eventually recognizes, the importance of integration and he chooses to prioritize the success of the team over his own ego. Um, and his whole portrayal of Yost in this, the transformation is kind of subtle, but it's very powerful. Where it just highlights that internal struggle of a good man striving to do the right thing. Um, and beyond the coaches, the film boasts this like strong supporting cast as well, and Ryan Hurst, who you may know is Opie from Sons of Anarchy, and he's in a ton of other stuff. He was in Bates Motel, but he's like the captain of this football team in this, and he plays Gary Bertier, the team's captain and defensive leader. Um, who he's initially skeptical of this whole integration as well, but ultimately he becomes a an advocate in the film for unity between them all. Um, so Ryan Hurst playing Gary has this a very powerful presence in the movie, and it showcases his strength and his vulnerability as he's navigating like the all the shifting dynamics of the team, I guess. Um, so Wood Harris plays Julie. I think it's Julian or Julius Campbell. I can't. I think it's Julius. So he plays. I'm gonna say it's Julius Campbell. If I'm wrong, you can correct me in the chat. Um, who's the defensive leader of the black players. Um, and he's initially confrontational as well, but he eventually forges this deep bond and friendship with Gary, um, where they end up becoming best friends basically. Um, and the Wood Harris that plays Julius captures this kind of, I guess, initial anger and distrust, but his also his growing respect and understanding of what teammates that eventually happens is it's definitely powerful. I think it's one of the biggest messages of this whole movie. Um, so more of the supporting cast in this is just Kit Pardue. He embodies this like this guy they call Sunshine, Ronnie Bass. And he's just he's this new talented quarterback who joins the team. He just came in from California, um, and it brings kind of a fresh perspective and this like playful, I guess, charm that helps bridge the racial divide between the team members. Um, and then you also have Donald Faison, who played Turk in Scrubs. He plays Petey Jones in this, who's this is a talented running back who ends up becoming a key player for the Titans. Um, now, what makes Remember the Titans, I think, so memorable are a lot of the iconic scenes that capture the heart of the movie. Um, so the whole like training camp sequence is a very pivotal moment in the movie where it showcases, Boone's like methods of I don't know, like it's just where it's his commitment to breaking down these racial barriers, where he forces these players to kind of get to know each other. He's telling he wants them to spend time with each other every day and get to know each other, and learn about their families, learn about their personal stories, all that, and it demands that they see each other as just humans, as individuals, not just as black or white or whatever. um, and I think one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is when they do this like nighttime run. It's like 3 in the morning or something like that, and they're running. So they're running through these woods to get to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and Boone, he forces the team to run through like the battlefield, reminding them of the sacrifices that were made for like unity and equality. And he challenges them to acknowledge that pain and suffering of the past, so they can kind of like wake up and be like, guys, what you're doing is messed up. You need to wake up, smell the roses, and realize that we're all human beings that need to get along. um, so the locker room confrontations between Gary and Julius are also very powerful for the movie, where it kind of highlights that initial tension and then this growing respect between the both of them. Um, so their whole understanding um, eventually is like it becomes like this brotherhood, I guess you could say, between them, because of the emotional like parts of the film where they're trying to get to know one another and all that. But it also represents that possibility of overcoming prejudice through just a genuine connection. And I think that's what a lot of people should try, because there's a lot of that stuff that still exists in this world, unfortunately, and a lot of people out there that have that mentality. And like I said, this is a great movie for anybody to watch, especially for those people that are struggling, with uh, just because they think they're superior to to a different race or a different lifestyle or whatever. I think this is definitely a movie that kind of they could watch, maybe wake up. But some people are lost causes too, and some people will never change, unfortunately. Um, and I think when it comes to this, the whole ending of this movie in the championship game against Marshall, it's a whole thrilling like culmination of the team's journey, where there's all this intense uh, gameplay and the strategic like maneuvers and plays that they're putting out there, and all the this different emotional stakes are all expertly captured, and they're all doing this for Gary, who doesn't get to play in the final game, unfortunately, because he does end up getting paralyzed from the waist down. And then at the end of the movie, it's like 10 years later, and Gary had died. So they've all come back together as one again, the team, the coaches, and all that for Gary's funeral. And but just I think the whole ending with the championship game, it reminds us of that this is more than just a sport. It's a symbol of like this unity of being this collective triumph over adversity. And I think that's what because yeah, this is a football movie, but it's also a very good life message for people to see, and experience. Um, and like I said, I love this movie. I think it's one of Denzel Washington's best roles that he's ever had. And it's definitely different for to be a Disney movie to kind of cover all that adversity and controversy between what real stuff that really exists in the real world. So I commend Disney for that. To having the courage to put a movie like this out there, but because it's definitely needed for a lot of people to wake up and kind of experience that. So let's see what's going on in chat here. Um, so Tom, you say that Crater Mania needs to collab with the right channels. It will work. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm always up for collabing with different channels. I've done some stuff with Dana in the past on her channel, Evil Dead Chick. I've done quite a bit of stuff with Dead Pit in the past. We actually, other than just this little thing that I'm doing on my own channel, I'm actually a part of the WrestleManiacs, which is like a subgroup to Dead Pit, where we do wrestling videos and stuff. So be on the lookout for more of those. Me and Wes just did a WrestleManiacs over the a Bunkhouse Stampede from 1988 not long ago. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out on their channel. And there'll be other stuff we did. We just did like after the Royal Rumble, we did the Royal Rumble post show on there. Me and Wes and Mark. That was fun. I always love doing those. But yeah. I mean, right now I'm not worried about the popularity or anything or getting a bunch of like subscribers. But I mean, I'm not going to turn that away. Of course, I mean, I would love more subscribers. I'd love more people to check out the channel and just I would appreciate that people stopping by to check me out, hear me ramble on about some movies and whatever. Uh, but yeah, I mean, time will tell. I guess time will tell for sure. Russell said you love both the Longest Yard films. Yeah, I do too. I love both of them. I think, like I said, I just watched the original this past week for the first time, and I think I'm more so like I love that one over the remake. But like, I'm not discrediting the remake at all. Um, and I guess speaking of the remake, that brings me to the last movie that I did watch this week, and that is the 2005 remake of The Longest Yard, starring Adam Sandler. Um, and we've talked a lot about it. We've mentioned Adam Sandler a lot. I mean, I know this is two different movies, two different football movies that he has done. That I've covered both this week. So, and then there was a few references here and there, the Happy Gilmore, Little Nicky, and all that. Um, and I even mentioned Billy Madison. So yeah, there's been a lot of Adam Sandler talk to him. But I'm an Adam Sandler fan. I'm not going to lie. I do. I think he was one of the best comedians of the '90s. But as I said, this is the remake of The Longest Yard from 2005, and it kind of arrived, I guess, with this heavy burden of expectation for a lot of people who had seen the original. But like between those two films, the remake was actually what I seen first, so I didn't really have any kind of expectations, um, you know, with not seeing the original. But in the original 1974 Burt Reynolds classic, it had cemented itself in pop culture, and I realize that now, after doing the research that I have this week and seeing the movie. Um, and remakes, they often face a lot of skepticism because they're, you're expecting them to be just as good as the original film. But sometimes the case is that the remake can be better than the original. There's many horror movies like that in that aspect, like like John Carpenter's The Thing. It's a remake. Cronenberg's The Fly, another remake, and I think both of those movies are better than their original films. Um, but I think this one is a little bit different with The Longest Yard remake, because and it definitely earns its stripes. While it's different in a lot of ways, I think there's a lot more comedy in this one than there is the original. But at its heart, this movie sticks to that core narrative, and I think that's what's really most important about it as a remake is where Paul Wrecking Crew, this time played by Adam Sandler, again is just this disgraced NFL quarterback who he finds himself getting put in prison, and he has to just convince these prison inmates to form a football team to play against the guards. So I basically told this story earlier. This is basically the same story, but as the original film, with a little bit of differences here and there. But I think one of the reasons that 2005 Longest Yard resonates as a great football movie is is it has more football sequences in it, and so that's definitely one of the major differences in this movie from the original. Because in the original it kind of focused more on the character drama. The remake kind of focuses more on the really impressive, like choreographed football sequences. Um, and we got a lot of just like the original. We have some famous players, real life NFL players that showed up in this one. This one has Michael Irvin, Bill Romanowski is in this. Um, and it's always fun to see them. And then even you look like the character, look at the character that Bernadette Peters portrayed in the original Miss Toot. We have that same type of secretary character in this one, but she's portrayed by a much older actress at this time, which was Cloris Leachman. But I think that was the plan with this movie is because Adam Sandler known as like this comedy genius already. They wanted to add a lot more comedy to this one than what they did the original. Um, but other than Adam Sandler, I think this has a great cast. Um, you know, that portrays all these characters from the original, like Caretaker, who was originally played by James Hampton, and this is portrayed by Chris Rock. And I think Chris Rock really shines as Caretaker in this. And he has this whole like he's just resourceful and perpetually like hustling inmate to to where he just takes care of all these guys, much like how James Hampton's character did. And he becomes Paul Cruz's right hand man. Um, and the comedic timing between like Chris Rock and Adam Sandler in this is awesome, and I love it. And then you got William Fichtner in this, who was cast as the Captain Canower, the captain of the guards team, and the original guy Ed Lauder. He makes a cameo in this too during when the warden is doing having a golf game with his buddies, and one of his golf buddies is Ed Lauder, the original Captain Canower. So definitely fun seeing them in there. And then you got guys like Nelly, who played Meggett, and Terry Crews, who's always hilarious, plays Cheeseburger Eddie. Um, and I have to bring this up. Have to. I cannot talk about this movie without mention, because I am a huge professional wrestling fan. Um, so to see guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Goldberg, Kevin Nash, the Great Khali in this movie it's really fun, and I love seeing them in this, and they do a really awesome job. I love when they switch out Kevin Nash's like his steroids with estrogen, so he starts getting like all these like female hormones in him and stuff, and he's one of the most hilarious parts of the whole movie. Um, and there's several scenes that stand out in this that are very memorable, and a lot of them are very similar to the original film, but with a little extra added comedy in each of those. If you compare this remake to the 1974 original, it kind of highlights the similarities, differences between the two. The original has this more gritty realism, and it focuses on the like the corruption of the prison system, and kind of provides like a little more darker and sober portrayal of prison life. Um, but and Burt Reynolds' crew is a more brooding and like cynical character in the original. Whereas the remake, on the other hand, it prioritizes more on entertainment and just broad appeal and comedy and all that. Um, like I said, it's lighter in tone. It features definitely more comedy in it, and has a lot more higher production values. But that's a given because I mean there was like a 30-year difference, 31-year difference between these two movies. Um, But I think ultimately, the 2005 Longest Yard remake is a successful, in my eyes, reinterpretation of the classic film. While it may, in my eyes, may not surpass the original in terms of its like, gritty realism and social commentary and all that, it delivers a thoroughly like entertaining, football movie with a strong cast and impressive action sequences, and really just a good message about redemption and teamwork. And it's definitely a crowd pleaser. I mean, I know a lot of people that love this movie. I think it earns its place in memorable football movies. Um, just proving that sometimes remakes can go on to the go the distance in that aspect. And it's a fun, action packed, and surprisingly, really moving film that deserves a second look. If you've seen this movie before, you either like it or you don't like it. But I definitely suggest, if you didn't like it the first time, give it a second chance. Give it a second look. Especially for those who appreciate good underdog stories that are played out on football field. Um, but yeah, and that's it for the movies this week, guys. The So it's currently 6:12 p.m. Eastern time. So the big game, the Super Bowl, is going to be starting here in a little over 15 minutes from now. If you guys are watching that tonight, or if you're just sitting to watch the Super Bowl commercials, whatever you guys are doing, um, better get your snacks ready because it's about to start. Um, Want to thank all you guys for being here with me, watching this stream today. Like I said, I had to do it a little bit early because of the big game tonight because I wanted to catch that. But yeah, definitely thank you guys for just checking me out, being here with me. Russell, Greg, Tom, Candace was in here earlier. My buddy Foz Rotten was in here. Um, if I'm forgetting anybody else that showed up, I apologize, but I just want to let you guys know thank you. Um, I'm going to be, having some more stuff come out later this week. So doing two in the next week, like I said, I want to be doing the cop comedies of the Police Academy movies and the Naked Gun movies, and then at the end of the week, I'm going to be doing a few horror movies that are Valentine's Day based. So I'll be having a little Valentine's Day special later in the week as well. But I guess it's now time. It's to move on to the Super Bowl, guys. And um, if you guys are watching the game tonight, good luck. If you're betting on any of the teams, good luck. If you're just if you're favorite team is playing tonight, and you're wanting them to win that championship. Um, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles in this, just because I think the Kansas City Chiefs at this point have become like the overlord of football teams that everybody is like rooting for to be defeated, unless you're a Chiefs fan. But I will catch you guys later. Again, thank you for being here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already, and have a good night, guys. I love you. Take it easy.